Should gender restrictions be removed, allowing women to fight on the front lines? Women's participation in the military stretches over 400 years into the past throughout many cultures and nations. In World War I, thousands of women served as nurses and other supportive roles. Russia deployed female combat troops and even maintained a frontline cavalry regiment commanded by a female colonel. In World War II, over 50,000 women had combat roles in Britain and Germany. In the United States, women have contributed to the military since 1775, and in 1917, Loretta Walsh became the first U.S. woman to enlist. Finally, in 1948, a law was passed permanently making women a part of the military services. Statistics show that only 15.6% of the U.S. Army's 1.1 million soldiers are female, and currently, women serve in 95% of all Army occupations. Particularly, the role that women play in combat is most controversial, and only recently have women been given a more prominent role in contemporary armed forces.
We're talking the states and women on the front line today. I want to give us a sense of global perspective here, if I can. A number of countries, of course, already allow women on the front line. Australia, New Zealand, Denmark, for example. Israel, let's take Israel in its military, the Israeli Defense Forces. It's the only country with mandatory conscription for both men and women. 34% of all soldiers are women. 51% of officers are female. Despite this, only 3% of combat soldiers are female. What about India? Well, you've got to be 18 or older to volunteer, but even though they let women enter the army as officers, they do not let them take up frontline combat positions. Finally, let's take a look at China, for example. The People's Liberation Army, the biggest of them all, they recently decided to let women take up combat positions, with around 300 million women currently of serving age and another 9 million reaching that age every year. So the situation...
A survey taken by the Washington Post displays the percentage of those supporting and opposing women in military combat roles. The results lean towards supporting the decision significantly. However, the source does not provide information on the individuals who took part in the survey, so it is not possible to say whether the data is reliable. The Director of Treatment of Women in the Australia Defence Force, Dee Gibbon, believes allowing women to serve in all positions of the Australian Army addresses the force's increasing shortage of personnel and enhances operational effectiveness. Dee Gibbon poses a substantial argument in the debate, promoting the integration of women into all positions of the Army. Her credentials aid her conjecture, however, an in-depth analysis of her perspective could prove it to be slightly fallacious. When Gibbon states the premise that many Australian Defence members, including women already serving in ADF roles and Defence's senior leadership, welcome the change, she is making an assumption appealing to the popularity of the women mentioned. Gibbon's inference is also fallacious on the grounds that the statement is an appeal to authority, holding the opinion of a person with senior leadership to be valid with no further explanation to back it up. Jim Hansen, retired Special Operations Master Sergeant, believes most women do not meet the physical requirements of strength or stamina to perform in the frontline combat roles.
If we put Genevieve on a team with me and 11 of my friends, we're instantly going to start backstabbing each other to gain favor with her. I can stipulate that that's pretty much what we did. And anytime we were around women, there was a formal competition.
Although Hansen's debate rests on personal experience, his assumption that introducing women into the military workforce will create a distracted, competitive morale is an appeal to history. Hansen's belief relies on the assumption that, because this occurred in the past, it will happen again. With the primary motive of his debate being a shortcoming in physical abilities women possess in order to perform on the front line of combat in foreign countries, Hansen seriously lacks the experience to support the claim. Hansen has no credibility. He fluffs up as an Afghanistan expert, yet hides the fact that he has never stepped foot there. As a leading author of the conservative military blog Black 5, it appears as though Hansen has a reputation to maintain. However, this reputation is murky. Overall, the evidence discounting Jim Hansen's credibility proves his opinion a transparent addition to the argument. Genevieve Chase, the founder and executive director of the Americans Women Veterans, argues for women in combat against Jim Hansen.
Are women in combat? Yes. Are we serving honorably? Are we dying in combat? Absolutely. Are we being attached or assigned to units? They're getting around this with using sort of semantics, the words attached and assigned. Absolutely. So we're getting attached to these units versus assigned. And we're missing out on critical training. And we get into the physical debate, we get into the men versus women. You know, in a modern society like ours, we all go to school equally. We all serve and learn and interact in civil society equally. So then we get into this military environment, we take the men and we herd them off into this special training area, and then we start programming them to think differently about women and to perceive women differently. And I agree that it does heighten some of the interaction that goes on. But, you know, if the debate is boys want a club of their own, then let's talk about that. But we're talking about whether or not women should be allowed to serve and continue to serve as they have been, and also to receive the training and the recognition for the service.
My opinion regarding the removal of gender restrictions of military combat roles is consistent with the one I held prior to my research. I believe women should be allowed to participate in combat. Perhaps the question can be more thoroughly examined over the upcoming years as women are integrated into combat roles worldwide.